All right, here we go, guys. We're getting ready to go live. Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of Total Media Live. And today is a very special episode, as we are dedicating this entire episode to our great late friend, Josh Edwards. And I wanted to play Rocky Top to start off the show. And as you guys can see, we're using a little bit of technology today. Today's show is going to be a little bit different, but I'm not going to do any plugs. I'm not going to do any kind of ads or anything like that. Like, today's episode is strictly dedicated to nothing but Josh and things that I'm sure he would have enjoyed. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I want to tell you, but once again, if you guys are listening to us for the first time, my name is Timothy Williams, and this is the Total Media Podcast. And usually we have a guest on. Today I want to do a special episode for one of my dearest friends, one of my greatest friends that I've ever had. And I'll tell you why here in a second. But he was a big UT fan. Josh loved UT. And earlier today I got to visit him. And, you know, lo and behold, I got to see the bright orange. I'm wearing my orange shorts today. You know, I would stand up and show you, but it'd just be a terrible shot. But yeah, I just wanted to dedicate everything to him today. And he passed away over a year ago, last March in 2019. And to give you a little bit of a backstory, this requires a little bit of I had no idea what I was really getting myself into. Like, student loans, had no clue. I couldn't even afford to, do anything really. Like, I legitimately couldn't afford to go to the school. And so I go to freshman orientation, and one of the first people I meet is a guy by the name of Carter High. Shout out to Carter. And when me and him met, it was really weird. It was like one of those things when you meet somebody that, like, you're immediately like, yo, I like what you like what I like we got a bond. And that's kind of how it was with me and Carter right off the bat. And so for all of Lipscomb Advance, I don't even know if they call it Advance anymore, but all of Lipscomb Advance, we hung out and we got to know each other. And I started to realize I really wanted to be at Lipscomb, and I had to find a way to get there. And I also realized that I couldn't afford to live there. Like, there was no way that I had enough financial aid to live on campus and to attend school. So what I would have to do is I would have to drive to school every day from Smyrna, Tennessee. And this is before Nashville traffic got terrible. I mean, it was only like a 35, maybe 40-minute commute every morning only, right? And basically, I would have been able to go ahead and attend Lipscomb. And so one night, me and Carter were talking, and I said, man, look, I will bring food, I will bring snacks, I will bring, drinks, whatever you want, if you let me, sleep on the floor in your dorm, just 2 nights a week. And he was like, dude, I'm fine with it, but we got to ask my roommate. And so I met Carter's roommate, Tyler Ashley, also another fantastic person. There's not enough time. I hope that one day I can have these guys on the podcast, just to be real honest. And I've been in talks with Carter, so he might be on the podcast at some point in the near future. But basically, Carter and Tyler were willing to let me crash in their dorm room every night during the week and anytime I needed it. And so, there was literally 3 of us in one dorm room. And, I had to kind of, hide from the RAs and stuff. Nobody really knew that I was, crashing. It was really interesting. And sure enough, I brought a bunch of snacks all the time. And then I'd get mad when Carter would eat the whole bag of Doritos because those things were delicious in college. I don't know what it was. But, legitimately, I wouldn't have been able to go to Lipscomb without the help of those 2 people. And I don't know that I can ever repay those people for those amazing acts of kindness. But, I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful. So the way that Josh fits into all this is I actually met Josh because he was a neighbor. He was literally the guy that lived across the hallway from us. And so we started kind of talking, and all of a sudden we started hanging out, and, we became pretty good friends. And then I met a bunch of other people like Cooper. I met a bunch of Josh's friends, and we became friends. We were all friends. And fast forward after freshman year, I really decided to try to take a hold of my life, and I had gotten a taste of what it was like to be on my own, but I wanted to like really completely do it. So sophomore year, I lied to Lipscomb and I said that I was living at home with my mom or whatever, and I got in a campus or an off-campus apartment with Josh, and we had a third roommate. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about him. I just don't think that's. I don't think there's a time and place. I think there's a time and place for that, but there was three of us, and we lived in the gazebo apartments, man. It was great. Like, the first time I'd ever really lived on my own, I was working at Carrabba's as a server. My other roommates, Josh, was working at, like, Cracker Barrel. Like, we were all just trying to cruise through college, man. It was great. And we became really good friends. And we met so many different people, and I met so many people through Josh. I can't even begin to tell you, just off the top of my head, Darren Royce King, Matt Losner, Boomer Stevens. Yeah, his name is Boomer, right? I wonder how he's doing right now with the name like Boomer, right? A guy by the name of Jordan Phillips. Man, there's so many people that, like, I'm not even naming that were just tremendous people that I would have never met without Josh, and that I would have never met without Carter and without Tyler. And I'm just like, dude, like, all of this had to go perfect for all of this to happen. And it's amazing when you look back at it. And, so to kind of talk a little bit more about Josh, basically, we, lived in gazebo apartment for a year, and we did a lot of damage to the apartment. There were like holes in the carpet from when they like smoked hookah and like dropped us like a what do you call it? The thing that like burns, the coal. Yeah, they dropped a burning coal on the carpet. So they literally like charged us for the entire apartment carpet. And then our third roommate destroyed the wall. And legitimately we had like $1,300 dollars in damages that we ended up having to pay after we moved out. I mean, it was terrible, man. But you live and you learn, obviously. But there were so many good times with Josh, man. We had so many. I'll be real honest. We had a lot of parties. Yeah, we literally made a Facebook page called the Gazebros. Like, we all shared a Facebook account, and we would just like post events that were happening at our apartment. And like, there were a lot of just like fun times, and we always tried to like we never like crossed the line and went crazy, but we always had a good time. We used to take trips on the weekend. Like, our best weekends were like Halloween. Now, I'll never forget this. It was Halloween 2009, man. Halloween 2009. And me, Josh, a couple of our other buddies, we decided to drive to Chattanooga for one night, and then we were going to drive to Knoxville the next day when we woke up. So obviously it was a lot of fun, right? And on our way after we went to Knoxville, or we went to Chattanooga, it was great, and then we went to Knoxville the next day. And let me see if I can make sure that I get this up here right. But this was actually the first time I believe that I had went to a UT football game, and I will never forget it. To be real honest, it was one of the coolest things ever. So to give you a recap, this was the weekend right here. It was October 31st, 2009, South Carolina against Tennessee. South Carolina was ranked number 22 in the country. Tennessee was unranked. And we're all at the game. It's raining, like, it's cold. It's not a fun night in terms of like weather, but we're just having a great time. You know what I mean? We've been tailgating. Everything was great. Like, Knoxville is truly amazing. And they warm up in their all orange jerseys, right? And then immediately, like, after warming up, they go back into the tunnel. And then all of a sudden, the crowd is like, waiting for them to come out of the tee. And they appear in the tee. They run through the tee. They basically run through this thing right here. They do a little entrance where they run through the long part of the tee, and then they go to the sideline. But they started running out, and when they popped out, they had black jerseys on. And I'm not a UT fan at all, man. I'm a USC fan. I love USC. I love Los Angeles. I love Kobe. I love the Lakers. You know what I mean? Like, I love LA, man. I really do. I think it's a great place. But I felt such tremendous energy in Neyland that night. I mean, it was unlike anything else that I've ever experienced at a college football game. Like, every time I go to Neyland, it's an amazing time. And like, I can't tell you how happy we were. Lil Wayne, No Ceilings, it just came out, and we're all bumping No Ceilings on the way to Knoxville and to Chattanooga, and then they come out in these all black uniforms, man. I mean, it was just simpler times. It was simpler times, man, and this is probably some of the most fun I've ever had in my life, and I owe it a huge. I'll be real honest. I to use a phrase, I get by with a little help from my friends, and that's all it comes down to, man. That's all it comes down to, and it was just tremendous to be able to experience that. Josh was a wonderful person, and I think one of the coolest things that I can do looking back on this is just cherish the moments that we all got to enjoy. And I'm telling you, man, these black jerseys this night, Tennessee wins, blowout win. I mean, it was just tremendous. It was just tremendous. And I think what I'm learning as I deal with this grief, and keep in mind, it's been like a year and 2 months. It's been a while. But everybody grieves different, and I'll be real honest. I had people reach out to me when Kobe Bryant died, and I know that Josh would have done the same thing. And I honestly, when Kobe died, I immediately flashed back to Josh, and that's the only person I could think of. And there's so much stuff that's behind closed doors, and I love his family so much. His mother was always tremendous, always one of the nicest people I've ever dealt with. Like I truly, my heart is my heart aches for her, man. Straight up. It's the same thing when I felt what I felt with Kobe. When I learned the news of Kobe, all I could think about is I hope his kids are okay and I hope his family's okay, like his wife. That's the only thing I could think of. And it's the same thing when I think of Josh, man. And I just, like I said, everything. We're going to talk about a lot of UT football today, and one of the reasons why is he loved it. And to be real honest, with the way everything is looking right now, we may not have college football in the Pac-12 in the state of California. With the way things are looking, I'm not sure that USC, my favorite college football team, is going to be able to play. And I'm looking forward to a new beginning in college football where I'm going to start rooting for the Tennessee Volunteers. And I'm going to be a fan. So I'm excited to take a look at their future. I'm excited to get hyped about them. And once again, man, it's just one of those things. I want to try to dedicate all this to him, because at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I take away from our friendship is no matter what happens in the friendship, always remember the good times, and remember that there were a time when, you guys loved each other as friends and you want to have their back always. And I think that that's going to help me as I move forward. I need to, as a growth, as a part of growth, just not holding grudges, just not holding anything back about anybody, no matter what, and just moving on in life and saying, hey, sometimes that's the way it works. And no matter what, still love the person for the positive and for the good, rather than dwell on anything bad or negative or anything like that. And I think I need to do that to everybody. So, that's the best lesson that I can learn from my friend Josh, and he teaches me even today. We had a great moment today, man. It was amazing. I'll never forget. Now I know exactly where he is. I'll always be able to visit him. And it'll be great, man. It'll be great. But like I said, I look back on, this time period of 2009, 2010, 2011, man, incredible for a lot of people, and obviously for a lot of my friends. But, I just wanted to share that with y'all, and I wanted to talk about the Vols today because the Tennessee Volunteers look like they might have an interesting season coming in to 2020. And so if we do get to see college football, it will be interesting to see if Tennessee can build on a lot of the positive news that we've been hearing the past few weeks. Now, if you haven't heard, I want to show you this, and I'm trying to go ahead and make sure that we go ahead and get a little flashy with some of this technology here. But I wanted to show you some of these, basically these stats that we've been seeing about University of Tennessee and their recruiting class. And as you guys can see nationally, some websites like 247 Sports are ranking them as high as number 10 in the country, and that's crazy because that's number 7 in the SEC. So that kind of tells you how strong the SEC is. But when you look at some of these commitments, you've got a pro style quarterback. It looks like you've got some defensive linemen, you've got some offensive linemen, you got some athletes. I mean, it looks like they're really trying to recruit and address a lot of needs, and it makes sense. As I believe UT has not necessarily cracked the level that they want to crack yet. I know that they've had a couple of good wins in the past few years. Obviously, the memorable Jauan Jennings catch at the end of the game on a Hail Mary, I believe against Georgia. That was quite heartbreaking for Georgia fans. So when you look at Tennessee, I think a lot of people see that there's potential there. And they are starting to recruit at a level that's similar to the rest of the SEC. Now, they've missed some notable players in the past in the local area. For example, they didn't get T. Higgins. I think that was one of the biggest misses. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is another big miss that they've had in the past few years. And you can look up like pictures of these guys visiting UT, and they're wearing the UT orange. They're there on campus, they're visiting, but somewhere along the lines, Tennessee, I guess, kind of dropped the ball, and Clemson ended up winning out on some of those prospects and other schools as well. So it's one of those things where I think if Tennessee is going to really continue to progress, because they have made positive steps. Like, I don't think anybody can deny that. I think Coach Pruitt is doing a really good job. I don't know what they're doing virtually to recruit, because like ever since everybody's kind of been locked in and kind of quarantined, they have been recruiting at an extremely high level. I'll show you some of the stories here in a moment. But Tennessee has been recruiting and been really hot. And if you've looked at Twitter, you've seen a lot of people on Twitter bashing the Vols, talking about times when they blew out the Vols, okay? And I'll be real honest, I remember a lot of those games, okay? Oklahoma did blast them. You're right, okay? So did, I think Oregon blasted them pretty good one year, and maybe even UCLA beat them one year. But it doesn't matter now. Like, that's in the past, and that was under a different era of where UT is. And I think that the more progress that UT makes, I think that we're going to start to see some of those games that they were losing start to turn into wins. And I think that part of it comes from recruiting a little bit heavier in their own backyard. For example, I think Reggie Grimes, one of the best prospects we've seen in Tennessee in a long time. And Reggie Grimes was very interested in the University of Knoxville. But he ended up committing to the University of Oklahoma. Great school. Awesome commitment. Can't wait to watch it. I just wonder how long until UT starts flipping commitments like that and taking the kids from Oklahoma, from Alabama, from USC. How much more are we going to see this? Because if you guys notice, there was a transfer that they got from the University of Georgia, and he was a 5-star. And then you start looking at some of the other news that you've heard about Tennessee, the athletic department. Guys, it's not like it's just football. If you look at the top basketball recruiting, guys, Tennessee's in the top 5. Let's click football right here. Tennessee is number 7 on Rivals right now for the class of 2020 out of all teams in the league. So you're looking at an athletic program that was taken over by Philip Fulmer very recently, about maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know, maybe a year. And all of a sudden, they're recruiting at a high level in multiple sports. And, I mean, we haven't even talked about baseball because, every now and then UT's pretty good at baseball too. And then you got women's basketball. So when you guys look at the University of Tennessee, we might be seeing the resurgence of the entire program of the University of Tennessee. And when it is in the year, usually it's kind of when everybody gets back on campus, right? Like it's August. So if you have a good football season, all of a sudden other sports are kind of hyped and feeding off of that as well. All of a sudden there's a lot of energy on campus. All of a sudden you may have a special run. So I'm here to tell you, really big time, I think the University of Tennessee is going to see a national championship possibly in the next couple years in one of their major sports, baseball, basketball, or football. And I am talking about softball as well. They had a great pitcher. I want to say it was Abbott a few years ago. I mean, it had to be a decade ago. But I believe she went to UT. I may be wrong on that. I have to fact check myself. But when you guys talk about that program, I think you're going to see a resurgence in it. It's got a gigantic population of students. The admission standards are not something like a Vanderbilt where you're going to have athletes not able to get in. You're going to continuously see the tradition be brought back to color and brought back to life. If they have a good football season, if they're able to win something, knock off a top team in Alabama. I don't know. They might. I mean, Lane Kiffin almost did it. What's to say Bobby Pruitt or Coach Pruitt couldn't, you know? So when you guys talk about that, let's just be real honest here. Tennessee is on the doorsteps of being back to prominence in the entire landscape of college sports. And let's not forget, guys, different states are under different rules for the current quarantine. And if you've been reading the news, they've been trying to, work out where athletes can get together and at least work out. And as of a couple days ago, the SEC held a vote. And Philip Fulmer, the athletic director for the University of Tennessee, did not want students to return or athletes to return to workouts and facilities until, I believe, June. Maybe a little bit more closer towards June. And so with that in mind, guys, you've got your coaches that seem to be on the same page as your athletic director, that seem to be on the same page as the university. And when you have those three things going together, that's scary for the rest of the country. It's scary for the rest of the programs in the United States. Big Orange may be back. And when we talk about basketball, guys, my goodness, let's talk about UT basketball, who defeated, the Eastern New Mexico Greyhounds last year. I was a little sad about that. All right. Shout out to my home city, Portales, New Mexico. But, with that being said, UT has had a very successful basketball program the past couple years. When you guys talk about UT basketball, there were a couple dark years after Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl was amazing there, right? But when you look at men's basketball right now, guys, and with 17 and 14 last year, and that was after getting to the Elite Eight? Who knows what they would have done this year? Who knows? They might have gotten better had they gotten a chance to finish the rest of the season. There's the Eastern New Mexico loss, or win right there, I should say. But when you guys go ahead and talk about UT, I think there's a lot of buzz in Knoxville. I think there's reason to be a lot of buzz in Knoxville. That's one of the big things that a lot of people complain about when it comes to the Vols, that the fans may be a little bit too vocal. That sometimes the fans may cross a line in rooting for their team and being somewhat toxic to their fan base. You see it on Twitter every now and then where maybe they were about to hire a specific coach and then Twitter kind of says, hey, I don't think we should do that. So the fan base for the Vols is powerful. I don't know if that's a good thing, okay? That's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother podcast. But that just kind of shows you the type of backing that the University of Tennessee has. And if you have never been to Neyland Stadium, if you've never been there, Google it. Google it. It's huge. It's amazing. At night, spectacular. I can't imagine what it would be like to run through the T. There's one wide receiver that I've coached that's been able to run through the T. Brian Aiken. Shout out to Brian Aiken. He's the only player that I've ever seen. You won't believe me when I say this. You won't. He played wide receiver and defensive lineman. That's how good of an athlete Brian Aiken is. And I'll tell you what, in my opinion, he could have played tight end. He could have played wide receiver. Hey, the guy can do it all. He's that good of an athlete. We had 1 year with him. 1 year, one season. And he ended up being able to get on to the University of Tennessee football program. And who knows what his future holds. Hopefully he's, continuing to make the progress that we've seen. Because I'll tell you what, when I saw him last summer, oh my God, I don't know what they're feeding those guys at UT, but they're doing it right. I'll tell you what, I saw Brian Aiken in May of 2019, I want to say Brian Aiken had to be about 220, maybe 230. Guys, when I ran into him later a few months later, he had to be about 250, 260 plus. I mean, he was jacked. Very impressed with his work ethic. Always was. Just to be real honest, watching him in the weight room, he was always kind of freaky. That's when you can tell an athlete's a little special, right? You watch him in the weight room, and you're like, hey, man, this guy's getting after it in here. He's kind of strong. And that kind of indicates to you what kind of person they are in terms of work ethic, what kind of athlete they are. And Brian Aiken checked all those boxes. That's why he's at University of Tennessee right now. That's why hopefully he continues to get a little bit of more playing time next season or the season after that, because he's ready to be on the field for him. But I'm telling you guys, if Brian Aiken isn't ready to start for the University of Tennessee or be in the rotation yet, they must have some pretty damn good guys. I'll tell you that. They must have some pretty good guys on that defensive line. They must have some pretty good guys on that defense. If an athlete with the kind of talent that Brian Aiken has is not even in the rotation or starting yet. And once again, this is not at all directed at the coaches. They will make the right decisions. And all that's proven in practice. If you can play, they'll see it in practice. Okay? If you're ready, they'll see it in practice. No doubt. Trust those guys. Trust your coaches. Trust them. They watch every rep. Right? But I'm telling you right now, guys, the University of Tennessee has a chance to be special for the foreseeable future. And I'm excited about it. Very excited. I look forward to seeing what Coach Brewitt does. I look forward to seeing how the Vols do, assuming we get to play college football. And so let's kind of take a look at, for example, guys, I mean, USC is arguably behind recruiting in Tennessee and everything. I mean, this is actually incredible when you guys look at it. So once again, you start looking at some of these commitments, athletes, linemen, linebackers. You can see that they're trying to build this team by getting really high-level linemen as well. I mean, when you look at some of their 4-stars right here, they're liable to survive through the SEC. Like, why is Alabama so good? Because when their starter goes out, the guy that's right behind him, they recruit by size, so he's going to have the size. Now he's just got to go ahead and show what he's been learning in practice and what he's been doing, all the offseason and all that. And I haven't analyzed UT's recruiting yet. For example, let me tell you what I mean by Alabama recruits a specific type of player. So for those of y'all that don't know, Nick Saban, the way that he recruits is you have to have NFL size or elite speed. I mean, and when I say elite, did you see that? What was it, Henry Ruggs? Did you see that guy? That's elite speed. Okay? When you're running 4.4s and 4.3s, that's elite speed, guys. That's elite. And so you may be a little bit undersized, like maybe you're 5'11", maybe you're 6 foot at receiver, but because you're elite speed-wise, they will recruit you. Like if you ever wonder why the University of Alabama has such great players that don't even start, or maybe they only play specific roles until they're maybe juniors or seniors, that's why. If you wonder why so many players from the University of Alabama get drafted, Nick Saban recruits pro prospects that basically look like they're pro prospects as high schoolers. Okay? That's one of the big reasons why they were on some of the kids like a Reggie Grimes. Because he has that elite size and he's also got great speed. So when you guys talk about, what makes a kid different from a University of Alabama Division I, like Power 5, or maybe a Boise State, or maybe even like an Arizona State, maybe even like a Fresno State, some of those different levels, like that's where, guys. That's why their line is always pretty solid in terms of size. That talk about Alabama's offensive line, it's always pretty good, right? Think about how many prospects they've sent to the NFL. So if Coach Jeremy Pruitt is doing that, if he's kind of using those methods in recruiting, it's going to be interesting. And looking at some of these sizes, guys, that might be what he's doing. That legitimately might be what he's doing. I would imagine that this 5'11" athlete is just blazing fast or is a really good athlete. Uh, I mean, guys. I mean, when you look at the size, I mean, maybe you could say undersized by that safety. I mean, being only 5'11", I mean, maybe just a little bit, but I mean, it doesn't. I don't think that's really going to matter that much. You can play safety at 5'11". A lot of great safeties played at 5'11". You know, so look at the linemen, 6'4", 6'3". I mean, guys, that is 6'6". That is the difference. I remember I had a really good teammate in high school, my freshman year, Tyler Eady. I mean, unbelievable athlete. He ended up playing at the University of Tennessee Martin, coaches at Oakland High School, or he used to. I don't know if he still does. I think he was one of their offensive lineman coach. I love watching their O-line play. They all move as a unit. I mean, Oakland High School they are the cream of the crop when it comes to high school football in Tennessee. And I remember watching Tyler Eady throughout high school, even after I stopped playing. And I remember watching him and just saying, man, that guy's so good and he's smart. And, the only thing that held Tyler Eady back is the fact that he was maybe 6'1", maybe 6'2". It was literally the only thing. I mean, he maybe didn't measure up to 6'2", maybe a little bit under it. If he would have been 6'3", 6'4", guys, he would have gone major Power 5. I mean, I don't know how far his career would have gone. He might still be playing. I don't know. He was very hardworking. He was very smart. He was very good at what he did. And so with that in mind, I'm like, man, dude, that is the difference between like Power 5, Division I, like athlete that Alabama looks for, and why sometimes they just seem to dominate their competition so easily. And so if UT is using maybe some of those metrics as they're recruiting, I think that we're going to see that replicated success that you see at Alabama, maybe not as big a level. I mean, it's hard to be that good all the time, but I think you might be able to see something similar to that at the University of Tennessee. Now, when you guys talk about some of the other things that Tennessee has going for it, I mean, look at these logos, man. Look at these logos. I mean, people are willing to come to the University of Tennessee. If we're being honest, when it comes to recruiting in the SEC, we've had a few players that have been blessed to have opportunities in the SEC. And we've had players that have visited these SEC schools. I've gotten to talk to a lot of these athletes, and obviously you meet athletes that, from other schools that do that too, and maybe some of your kids end up transferring, all that. What's interesting about the things that they say when they come back, this may be not something that everybody knows. A lot of kids talk that a lot of the SEC schools, obviously I'm not talking about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is still catching up in a lot of ways, facility-wise and all that. But like when it comes to Tennessee and Alabama and Auburn and Florida and Georgia and LSU, a lot of the kids say everywhere you go, it's almost like the same thing. Like you're going to have the best stuff at all these places. You know what I mean? Like they're going to take care of you. Food, they got that. Diet, they got that. Meal plans, they got that. Facilities, they got that. Like all of that is covered. Like legitimately, I remember a kid being quoted as saying, yeah, there's no difference really between these schools. It's outside of like what you prefer. You want to go with Alabama that wins all the time and maybe you don't crack the lineup for a little bit, you're going to have to fight for every single rep, and which is not a bad thing. That's the way it should be, right? But, you know that it's a little different when you go to Alabama compared to like, say you go to like, I'm not trying to put any other schools down, but you go to another school that maybe doesn't have that much talent all the time on their depth chart. And, I think that one of the reasons why Tennessee is doing so well in recruiting right now is I think that everybody's kind of starting to catch on. Dude, there's a lot of good things about this place. The city of Knoxville is one of the best cities that I've ever been to. A lot of fun. Great atmosphere. The Vol Walk, obviously running through the T. I mean, it's truly tremendous. Like I can't put it in any other words outside of tremendous. I mean, to be an athlete at the University of Tennessee is probably one of the best things that you can do. And so when you talk about why kids all of a sudden are committing there, I think more and more kids are starting to realize that. And I think that the coaching staff is starting to say, hey, look, we're going to coach you. We're going to love you. You're going to be in a great atmosphere. Come check us out. We got everything we need to make you a professional player, to make you the best man you can be. And I think the kids are listening. And I think Jeremy Pruitt and his staff, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I think T. Martin, unbelievable pickup. T. Martin, I mean, if I guarantee it, stone cold guarantee, if T. Martin would have been there sooner, you wouldn't have seen some of these kids not commit to UT. Straight up. They would have came to UT. And now that T. Martin is there, man, I'm telling you guys, special place. Special place. I think that the University of Tennessee, I think Knoxville is going to be a major destination for some of the top prospects in basketball and football and softball and baseball for the next few years. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's the state that I live in, based out of Nashville. So there's a lot of Tennessee Vol fans here. When the Vols play at Vanderbilt, it's orange here, baby. It's orange. Now let me talk to you about Rocky Top for a second. How hype was that intro? How hype was it hearing that Rocky Top on the intro today? I mean, there's just so many things going for the University of Tennessee right now. I don't see how they don't turn things around. I really don't. And if let's just play doomsday scenario. Let's just say that there is no college football this year. So they get a year to develop all these guys. They get a year in the system. Does eligibility count against them? Like, hold on, man. Like, this could be huge. You might see the resurgence in a huge way of the volunteer program in that scenario too. So it's not like UT football is in a situation where like, oh man, if we don't come back in this 1 year, it's done. No. The way that they have done things, it looks like it's going to be a program. It looks like it's going to be multiple sports that they are competing at a national championship level. And I'm telling you, man, if that's the case, Vol Nation, Vol Twitter is going to be nuts for the next couple of years. We have not lived in an era of social media and UT football prominence, maybe a little bit of UT basketball prominence, right? We haven't lived in that era yet. And I'm telling you, go Vols. Get ready to hear it a lot. Go Vols. It's great to be a Tennessee Vol. You get ready to hear it a lot, guys. And if you go to Knoxville, it's infectious, man. You got to join in on it. It's infectious. That orange, it's just different, man. I got to say, it's got a special glow to it. Running through the T, look at that crowd. Look at that crowd, guys. Look at all those people. How can you not want to play there? How can you not want to compete for those people? How can you not want to pour every ounce of effort that you have as a competitor, as an athlete, as a human being into that place? Jauan Jennings did it. And you saw where that got him. He's in the NFL now. People noticed it. Did I agree with the incident in the Vanderbilt game? I didn't love that at all. Like, to me, the only thing that I have to say about it is be so great in everything that you do that they don't even have a chance to question your motive. That's the only thing. That's it, man. Like, the guy's ultra competitive. I don't know if it was on purpose. It's impossible for me to know. But in my opinion, the only thing that I would say is, and the only thing I would say is like a coach to that human being and to that young man, is I'd say, hey, man, you're great. You don't have to do that. You don't have to give anybody any ammunition like that. Like, there's just no need. What if that never happens? Does he get drafted higher? I don't know. And I'm not saying that that's an end-all, be-all mistake. I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to make the most optimal decision in life as much as possible, that's what I'm addressing. I love Jauan Jennings as an athlete. He gave us one of the most memorable moments ever in UT football history, and he was great. He really was. I hope it translates to the NFL. I really do. I'm rooting for the guy. You know, we talked on a previous podcast about Jauan Jennings. Let me tell you a little bit more about Jauan Jennings in high school. Jauan Jennings in high school played quarterback for Blackman High School, right? Guys, we had our fastest player all over this guy. Not even close, man. He was a super athlete. And like he was one of those guys that you knew his teammates, they fed off of him and just being around him. And like imagine if he gets to the NFL a couple years in and he has the same impact in an NFL locker room. Like that's what you have to measure. That you have to say at his greatest moments, what might I get out of him? If you're evaluating talent, in my opinion, that's what you look at. In their best moments, what is their ceiling? What am I going to get? And if I can find a way to get their best all the time, whoo, baby, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And I think Jauan Jennings has that dog in him. You know what I mean? It's different. It's different. As a competitor, it's different. When you have that dog in you, you don't give up, man. You don't give up. Like, no matter how much time is left on the clock, no matter the score, no matter the situation, you're a dog. And that's what Jauan Jennings is. They blasted us when we played him in high school, man. And granted, like, had we played him in different years, like where we had maybe different teams and things of that nature, maybe it'd have been closer. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, watching Jauan Jennings in high school was special. Game planning for him and looking at the defense and realizing, guys, if this guy gets loose, we're kind of done. Like, that's kind of it. We got to find a way to – and the thing is, he played quarterback, so he touched the ball all the time. You know? So it's like, golly, man. How do you stop this kid? And so Jauan Jennings, truly, we're rooting for you. I'm rooting for you. I know our late, great friend Josh is rooting for you. I know that was one of his favorite highlights. You know, I think for a while, like, that was legitimately Josh's Facebook picture. He had a picture of Jauan Jennings catching that Hail Mary. You know, people joke around on Twitter that Tennessee fans are going to be naming their kids Jauan, you know? And they might. Yeah, the guy made a lot of amazing plays. You know, he's a great athlete, man. And like I said, guys, I think that when you look at everything to do with today's podcast, like I said, I think the main point has been University of Tennessee's on the rise. And you better be ready for it. You better be ready for Vols, Vol Twitter, Go Vols, Rocky Top. That's not the last time you're going to hear Rocky Top. I guarantee it. Okay? And it's not a bad thing. I'm excited to see the University of Tennessee relevant in the era of social media. I'm ready to see it. I'm here for it. I can only imagine what Vol Twitter is going to be like whenever they maybe start the season like 6-0, 5-0, 7-0. I don't know, you know. Can you imagine that? I know a lot of my friends that are UT fans and a lot of my coworkers. Guys, they're not going to believe me when I start rooting for University of Tennessee. Okay? They're not. I know it. I've already started to get my bandwagon application for the University of Tennessee. In fact, I tweeted out this morning on my coach account that I was going to be potentially a UT Vol fan. And I kid you not, I check my phone after I get done visiting Josh, and boom, some Vol Twitter account is reaching out to me saying, "Get ready to send your application. You know, welcome to the bandwagon." You know, I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Hey, I'll just throw this out there, man. I've been to more games at Neyland than some Tennessee fans. Okay. I'm just throwing that out there. All thanks to my friends, man. All thanks to, you know, all of the people in my life that are UT fans, and a big thanks, you know, obviously goes to Josh. And once again, this entire episode, this is the best way that I knew how to celebrate you, man. It is. And I don't care if anybody else hears this, man. I don't. All I care about is that we pay our respect. We pay a little bit of love to one of the greatest people that I've been able to meet and one of the nicest people that has ever interacted with me. And a friend who, lost his life way too early. And I can't wait to sing Rocky Top and wear these orange damn shorts and maybe even fucking visit Knoxville, man. Screw it. Go to a game. Go back to Neyland. I haven't been to Neyland in a few years. I know a lot of the coaches that I work with would freaking. I bet you some of them are like, oh, I don't want it to be a UT fan, But you know what? It's bigger than fandom, man. It's you got some diehard UT Vol fans, and that's what Josh was. And it's one of the best ways, and one of the only ways that I can really give tribute to that man. And so, I look forward to, for a long time, rooting for the Vols, if not forever. Now, will they be my only team? I don't know. But I should have done it last year, if I'm being completely honest. But you know what? That the lesson that I learned, and I hope that you heard me in the beginning, no matter what happened, no matter what you've been through with that person, no matter, I hate to say it, man, but we all make mistakes. Sometimes the mistake is really, really fucking bad. Straight up, man. Sometimes that mistake, sometimes that horrible thing you do is a crime. Sometimes it's against the law. Sometimes it's against human nature. Sometimes it takes somebody's life away. Sometimes it hurts people that you didn't mean to hurt. Sometimes it hurts you in ways that you can't get over. But the best thing I got to do is I put myself in the shoes of, like, if somebody that I'm mad at right now was to pass away, just like Josh did, I don't know that I would be happy with myself for the way that I interacted with that person before they left this world. And I think that's ultimately what really led me to saying, man, I gotta get over there. I gotta go visit Josh. And there's so much more to the story, man. I can't share that on can't share this on international airwaves. But love the guy, man. I love him. I still do, man. Josh Edwards is a man. Number 8. Went from our days at Team Savage flag football to our gazebo days, to the Halloween parties that we threw, where all of a sudden people in our apartment complex started showing up, and we were like, who the hell are these people? To the people that we ended up having to kick out. All the things that, all the great memories, man. That's what I'll try to remember. And the craziest thing is it could always have been me. It could always have been me. It could have been my mom feeling the same way that Josh's mom felt. It could be Josh feeling the same way that I feel. And I don't want that for anybody. But I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy that I got to know Josh. And I'm happy that I got to share this with you guys. That's all I got.